Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lichi. I'm helping out with organizing QuantSem for this quarter. And so I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. The University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish people of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all bands and tribes in the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Mokoshik nations. The lab also acknowledges that we live and work on the ancestral land of the Duwamish, the Duwamish people, the first people of Seattle. And so to introduce this week's speaker, this is Baptiste Alglave. Yes, he's a quantitative ecologist and applied statistician with a specific interest in spatio-temporal modeling and applications in marine ecology. Just graduated with his PhD in December at Institut Agro in France under the supervision of Etienne Ribaud. And during his PhD, he developed statistical hierarchical models combining commercial catch declarations data and scientific survey data to infer fish spatio-temporal distribution and identify their essential habitats. And since January of this year, he's been a postdoc in the Pot Lab, and he's working on developing spatio-temporal population dynamics models to project and address the effect of climate change on harvested populations with the snow crab of the Bering Sea as a case study. And without further ado, Baptiste, take it away.
Thank you. So, as you noticed, I'm French, so I made a lot of that is hopefully it will not be a problem. So, I'm pleased. I just graduated my PhD in December. I arrived in the food lab in January. Basically, I've been working on spatial modeling, or I built spatial models to integrate heterogeneous sort of data, so catch declaration data, scientific survey data, production of a fine spatial temporal. It is what I'm going to talk about. So first, words talk about like something very generic. Statistics, not on fisheries. There are massive sources of spatial temporal data that are becoming available in many fields of environmental sciences. So, for instance, in epidemiology, you have healthcare data that are becoming available. In ecology, kind of citizen science data through the eBird that are becoming available to map bird distribution. And we have plenty of other examples in agronomy, climatology, oceanography, economy, and fisheries. And these data, they have like some observational characteristics, sampling characteristics that need to be accounted for in inference to infer spatial processes. So typically, these data can be aggregated over rope spatial scale, while we would like to obtain fine scale spatial prediction, or the sampling could be like non-standardized and could vary in space and time. And this should be a because if we want to produce unbiased estimate of physics. So basically, usually we make a distinction between two kinds of data. Standardized data, typically scientific survey data or standardized data, they benefit from a standardized sampling plan. You know the exact location of the samples, everything is well protocoled, etc. But they have high cost. It's very expensive to make this survey, and so usually the amount of number that you can get is relatively low in space and in time. Typically, the way data occurs once a year, so you cannot say everything outside the month of the survey. And last, there is no backup when there are sampling issues. And the idea then is to take other sources of data that could complement this amount of this data and that provide additional information. These numerical sources of data that I was talking about standardized data. So this data typically, in our case, the MS data, okay, they have a much higher sampling intensity. They can cover a wider spatial temporal range. So typically, with this data, you can infer-fish distribution on a much finer temporal scale like this, and on a wider spatial extent. But the problem is that sampling is not standardized, okay? And also, this is not evident here, but that declarations are aggregated over raw scales and to refine don't make information you make hypotheses that can impact. I will describe it later. Basically, here is the main question I want to address. I want to, if infer spatial-temporal processes, so here fish distribution, by combining these several data sources to produce and create and quantitative prediction. And this raises major methodological challenges. So first, we need to combine this data to provide a method that allows to extract information from scientific survey data and from commercial declaration data to infer the common field to data. We need to account for non-standardized and then we need to account for the fact that spatial resolution of this data may be aggregate based what we want to infer. The framework I work with to compute this data is the hierarchical modeling framework. So that's something standard in fisheries science. Everybody uses this. This is a kind of framework that is for stock assessment models, species distribution models, etc. So basically, in this framework, you distinguish observations that you observe, okay, from a latent field that you don't observe, but that you want to infer. Okay, and by modeling the conditional relationship between observation and the latent field, okay, through the distribution. And why here? You can infer S from Y. And all of this is controlled by a set of parameters here. And this kind of book is typically suited to combine several sources of data because, well, you can assume that you have several sources of data, Y1 and Y2, that these two are related to the latent field. And by modeling the conditional relationship between the data sources and the latent field, the common information in both data sources to infer this, and then to take advantage of the information of both data sources. In fishery science, here are some data sources that we would like to combine to infer fish distribution. So basically, we have scientific survey data, okay, onboard observer data, catch declaration data, and also to have like an idea where fishermen were fishing. And in the following following slides, I present each data source, and I point out the methodological challenges that are related to the integration of each data source, okay? And I propose a methodological difficulty to handle this issue. First, we have scientific survey data, okay? This data is standardized to the location, but the sampling volume of the data is low. Then, to complement the information, we can take advantage of onboard observer data. Typically, these data are available over the whole year. They provide additional observations, but in this case, the sampler are fishermen. Okay, so it means that the sampling is not standardized and depends on fishermen's behavior. And fishermen usually can target areas of high biomass among all the factors. And this targeting behavior is what we call preferential sampling. And if we do not account for preferential sampling in inference, then we may produce predictions of the distribution that might be biased. Okay, so this preferential sampling behavior needs to be stored in inference. So this is my first point, how to account for preferentials. So first, what is preferential sampling? Let's assume that we have a latent field, okay, that is distributed accordingly, and let's assume we have two sampling locations. Okay, here something is uniform. There is independence between sampling location and the biomass. Okay. Preferential sampling is when, in fact, there is some kind of dependence between the and the location of the sample. The first one who formalized this in a clear conceptual form in your artificial modeling framework is Diggle in 2010. And it started from a very generic formalization of a hierarchical model where he modeled one field, the latent field, S, the observation, Y, but also the sampling location, the fishing location. Okay? And he decomposes this probability in that conditional law as the probability of the latent field times the probability of the location knowing the latent field times the probability of the observation knowing the latent field and the observation. So the trick term here is the probability of the fishing location knowing the latent field. In most geostatistical methods, we assume there is independence between fishing location and latent field. And it is right that for scientific data, sampling locations are chosen so that there is independence between the sampling and the latent field. So this is correct for scientific data. Then, if this is correct, you can simplify this term to become the probability of the latent field, of the fishing location or sampling locations. And by conditioning this expression over it, you can once more simplify the expression, and in this expression, the probability of the latent field and the observation is equal to the probability of the latent field and the probability of the observation knowing the latent field. And this equation is the basis of all standard statistical methods that we commonly use. Okay? But this is no more true if there is preferential sampling. If there is preferential sampling, there is no independence. Okay? And then you cannot simplify here, and you need to account for this term in the model. And so to account for this term in the model, Diggle proposed a very basic framework where, well, that's a hierarchical model, standard hierarchical model where latent field is a Gaussian field, okay, where delta x is a spatial random effect. Observations are Gaussian, okay, depends on the latent field. But in addition, it adds a layer, okay, a layer modeling the sampling process, where locations, so sampling locations, are modeled through an inhomogeneous point process. So that's a process to model points in space, and that depends on some intensity, sampling intensity lambda x, and lambda x is related to the latent field as it, okay, through the parameter v. And the parameter v is the parameter that quantifies the relationship between pitching or sampling location and the strength of preferential. This model is based on has top limit. Here are the limits. It's only spatial, while our application cases are spatio-temporal usually. It has only one sampling process, so typically commercial data is sampled by several fishermen, several fleets that do not have the same targeting behavior, okay? And we need to account for this targeting behavior in the model. Observations and the latent field are Gaussian, while in fisheries not always the case. And last point, the way to model differential sampling is very constrained because you assume that locations, okay, only depends on the distribution of the latent field. While in fisheries cases, fishing location may depend on the distribution of the rotor, but may depend on many other factors. So I propose to explain all of these. First, it allows to fit non-Gaussian data, so the complex data like zero infected positive continuous data. These kind of data are standard, like environment data are usually new observation, and when it's not really the thing that looks normal or gamma, this kind of distribution kind of space right here. There is a link function to relate the latent field and the descriptor of the latent field. Also, I extend the framework to account several sampling processes. So each process is characterized by its own like descriptors. So each one has its own strength of preferential sampling. And in addition, I have in the expression of the sampling intensity, but so a term that allows to account for all the remaining variability in the fishing location that is not explained by preferential sampling, but that could be explained by, I don't know, all the factors that affect fishing location. So distance to coast, economic variables, etc. And that's it.
Is 12:46.
You got lots to talk.
Plenty of
I have time. I did some estimation results, simulation estimation results. So I just say a word about the way I estimate my models. Okay. So in both the Bayesian and the frequency framework, the big challenge is to compute likelihood, okay, of the data, knowing the parameters, and this requires to integrate the joint likelihood over the random effect delta. So, and this integration step is very time consuming. So you need some trick to bypass the integration step. And one trick is the Laplace approximation, and it allows to strongly the speed of the method. And typically, the tools that relies on the Laplace approximation are TMB in the frequencies framework, and in the Bayesian framework, it's very impact. In the frequencies framework, the trick is to approximate the likelihood through Laplace approximation, and then to optimize the approximated expression of the likelihood. Okay, and in ARENA, the trick is to approximate the posterior distribution of the parameters and the random effect through the Laplace approximation. Usually, these methods also implement all the tricks to improve the field of automatic differentiation and some computation techniques on personal traces. So this was about estimation. Then the question is, does it worth the cost to account for preferential sampling in inference? Do so, I made some simulation estimation. So I simulate a latent field observations that are sampled more or less preferentially, and then I fit several kinds of models. So one model that does not account for preferential sampling, and another model that accounts for preferential sampling. And I compare this model following one criteria here. There are others, but for the authenticity of the presentation, I don't need the relative bias biomass, where biomass is the integration of the latent over the whole area. This is typically the kind of index that we use to compute the indices of biomass that are used in statistics. And basically, I get these results. Here are the results. Here are the bias of a model that does not account for preferential sampling, okay, for different level of preferential sampling. And here are the results for a model that account for preferential sampling. And what we can see is that when preferential sampling increases, then not accounting for preferential sampling may introduce a strong possibly bias. So that's not negligible. And when we account for preferential sampling, we correct this bias. And this has importance for fishery science. So sometimes you pick assessment models based on commercial fleet data, and I think we do not necessarily look at the preferential sampling of this fleet. And it means that by computing biomass indices based on commercial fleet data, if preferential sampling is known, then we might produce over bias in biomass.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
So this all makes sense. The question, I guess, is identifiability.
Yeah.
How should you presumably had the right model in the second case, right?
Yeah.
But has anyone looked at how identifiable some of these things? Because you're basically getting density and preference from the same data set. So how do you know that those are identifiable when you've got a little bit of model misspecification?
We made some sensitivity analysis to assess this, and typically we made a framework that is relatively general. Okay, so it should handle some error in specification, and then that allows for some error in specification spatial effect here. Okay, So that's it. I totally agree. There is a question of whether this model is right or wrong. And we hope that by integrating this term, we correct a bit for the wrongness of our model. That's a good question. That's it. So we've not got model to handle preferential sampling, and we should be able to integrate onboard observer data in infer.
I presume that's the Bay of Biscay.
That's the way of thinking.
Yeah, you've got to pretend that there's some biology here.
Yeah. It's a really fun. That's the way of thinking.
I was just trying to work out where is that on the west coast. And there's Spain.
But if you look at this data point, sampling intensity remains relatively low, and the spatial prediction that we obtain will remain relatively unprecise. Take other data sources, native data sources, that could strongly improve model prediction, at least accurately. And typically, you can integrate data in native data source that could be very informative of fish distribution. And that could complement the information provided by them. The big problem is that these are declared at raw scale, okay? And then we have to find a way to integrate this raw scale data with fine scale data to produce fine scale species distribution. This type of problem is referred in the statistical literature as change of altitude. Basically, we want to handle punctual observations, YD, like survey data and observer data, with aggregated observations, B, aggregated on the wrong scale, to predict species distribution at a fine scale. And one tricky point is that observations are possibly complex. They are not necessarily nice-looking ocean distributions or poisson or corn data that can be modeled to the poisson distribution. And these distributions have nice additivity properties. Here, observations are possibly complex. They do not necessarily have like nice additivity. That's and another characteristic of our case study that we know, or at least we have an idea where are fishing positions based on the VMS. That's another simplification. In fact, you have to make assumptions to estimate location of fishing position based on VMS data. Usually, you use threshold to identify which VMS pins are in fishing. Here, we assume that we know fishing position and let all these situations together. And then, if I formalize all of this into a figure, here is what happened. Let's assume we are at the level of a statistical rectangle. This level here. Let's assume a fisherman is doing some sampling points. Okay, so he's doing catches here. He's doing 5 kilos here, 5 kilos, 10 kilos, 10 kilos, and 20 kilos. What it cares is not the individual observation, okay? It's an aggregation of all these observations, and it does this at the level of the access rectangle. So this makes one declaration that constitutes one declaration in the log data. The other thing that we know are the fishing location X with the VMS data. And what is done usually in fishery science, at least in a pragmatic way, but perhaps a rogue way to improve the spatial resolution of declaration, that we reallocate uniformly the declaration over each fishing locations. Okay, so we have the fisherman has done 10 kilos on all, and this is a big approximation. We are like doing we are smoothing and so this is what we call the uniform replication, and this is of the reallocated approach. And so what we propose is an alternative way of modeling can declarations. And we assume that what we observe are actually declarations, EA, so we fill the value on the declaration. We assume that declarations are a convolution, the sum of individual observations, okay, that we not that states individual observations are latent variable. And then we define again the probability distribution for this observation to say the model where declarations are a sum of this observation. Then we define probability distribution for the declaration A, and all the trick is to relate the distribution of EA to the distribution of individual observations by matching the moment of both distributions. So this is the base idea. I don't develop it further, but basically we want to compare different approach to the model that we propose that under channel. So always same thing, we do simulation and then we compare both approaches. When we relocate uniformly, we obtain smoother maps of this distribution, and that's quite intriguing because I mean, when you relocate uniformly, then you put the map, and then that's logical that the map that you obtain. But you can see where fish biomass aggregate, and you can see where biomass are relatively, maps are only smoother. But when we come from general control, then we obtain something that's much closer to what has been simulated. So that these look like very similar. In fact, that we have to see any discrepancies. This is because the latent field has been simplified, so it's only a matter of estimation. If you complexify a bit the latent field, then you will have discrepancies. But it's not for the sake of the presentation to illustrate what I'm talking about.
Sorry, can I ask two questions?
Yeah.
What was your aggregation resolution in this? Also, all you got was a cat for the whole rectangle.
Yeah.
And then you had lots of pings, presumably.
Yeah, 300 pins. It's very.
That's what, yeah, okay, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And are you using quasi likelihood to get to do the moments? How are you doing the moments to get? Because you must, if anyone's interested. Because you're matching moments, right?
Yeah. So basically, so this is a mass PI. This is a probability distribution for the individual observation. Okay. Then you have to define the probability distribution for the declaration B. So first, the probability to get a zero declaration is the probability to have all individual catches equal to 0. That's easy. The tricky part is to determine the probability of the positive declaration. Okay. And this is where we issue the model. So we compute the model A based on the moment of this probability distribution through this formula. So here we have no, I mean, we can find out the moment of dA by using the moment of this equation and using it here, and then we obtain the expectancy of the declaration, okay, which looks like this, straightforward. And then variance of the positive declaration, which looks like this. And then we consider that as individual observations are log normal, then declaration.
Step I was waiting for.
Yeah, that's an approximation.
Yeah.
Because we are approximating some of the orientated log normal by a log normal, and that's an approximation. I completely agree. And is it clear?
Yep.
Cool. Sorry for those who are remote, it was not perfect.
So to go back to the one you were just on, not the one Andre wanted to say.
This one?
Yeah. So the one on the right is estimated and the one on the left is the truth,
Yeah.
but they're basically identical. How can you get that good?
This is what we were talking about. The ping. The ping. I have 300 ping, okay. And the other thing is that one to illustrate what's happening.
Q isn't spatial. So So Q is not spatial, which it can't be, otherwise you wouldn't have got the answer. You know what the total is,
Yeah.
right? And you know where each location is. So you can essentially, and you know it's a Gaussian random field underneath there, so you've got enough, it's identifiable.
Yeah, it's not, that's only an illustration. When you complete the data field, then you get something that is different. That's. Yeah.
So did you play around with the number of pings? How many pings do you need to?
Yeah, so we made a sensitivity trial. When there are not enough pings, this does not converge. Here you needed at least 100 pings to. Okay. When you've got more pings, of course. Okay.
Yeah, still 400, you have 400 cells there. Is that 400? No,
600.
625. 625, yeah.
So this was for spatial prediction. But as ecologists, we are also interested in the relationship between the habitat and species distribution. And this is something that I can model in the latent field. So let's imagine that I specify with the latent field that I'm working on. So the latent field is very depends on an intercept and coverage. Okay. The spatial ornament and the term that I'm interested in is the parameter beta that relates the coverage, the habitat to species distribution. This is typically the parameters that are interesting for like people who are doing ecology, because it says where is preferentially distributed. In the simulation, I think beta 2. And the question is, do we find out this estimate when doing the relocated approach, when doing the explained model? Okay, and what we can see is that when doing uniform relocation, we get bias beta close to 0. So it means that we lose the species habitat relationship when doing uniform relocation. While when we account for in the method of inference, we find like the species habitat relationship. Okay, and we got unbiased. So this is what we should retain from this. So we've got something to handle something. We've got something to handle channel report. So let's bring all of this together. Let's integrate all the data, and it means that this time we have data only on 1 month, not on the 2 years. So let's extend the framework in time. So we have latent field in space and time. That depends on provider. That depends on the spatio-temporal effect, nurtured in space and in time. To infer the latent field, we've got scientific survey data. We have related scientific survey data, commercial data, preferential something. So this is the dependence of the physical location, depending on the element of it. And this model so we have that when we observe our cat declarations that are a sum of unobserved observation. This model is pretty complex. Different in simulations, when you go on real data, it's more complicated. So we see that convergence issues here, part is the channel okay. Word problem, some parameters are hard to estimate. The random effect is hard to estimate. The likelihood is very flat, the model is too complex. So there is still work to do.
Baptiste,
Yeah.
how do you deal with timing? Like you have season there, but
Timing is
no, just within a season, like the surveys don't occur probably
no.
all year long.
So they inform only the months of the survey.
So you focus only on a certain window.
So scientific survey data is integrated in the model at the moment of the survey, and then on the other months, the model is informed through commercial declarations data. That's what commercial declarations allow to inform species distribution outside the period of the survey. Is it clear?
Yeah, I'm so confused. How is it just because the survey overlaps with the fishery in time that you can expand it?
No, it's continuous.
It's continued.
It's continuous in space and time, and you basically got data at particular, it's like spatio-temporal box.
I guess that's my question. What's the size of the temporal data?
If that's not.
No, that's what, I'm just curious.
Just wondering, how do you account for misdeclaration?
That's a good question, and you never do miss the claim.
Spanish.
I work on Spanish one and TikTok. Italian one too, but they. We account for this as some random observation. So we assume that it's random, some random observation.
Like it can be as like the estimate that you got for your.
If the declaration error is random, then our model allows to handle it.
Because you're assuming the locations are correct because they're coming from VMS.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the,
but
it's the total.
like.
Total when you get-
And then it means that the model that is ready for operational application is the one that is reallocated data. Okay? And so it means that with this model, we assume that the amount that we will obtain will be smoother. Okay, but still we should be able to identify the higher aggregation or higher biomass, and that will mean that we cannot estimate the species habitat relationship. Okay? So we need a part of variance. Only look at aggregation area. Okay. So this is the model I developed during my PhD. Now I present you some applications. What time is it?
5 past, 7 past. Lots of time.
So typically, I can fit this kind of model on a relatively large time series. I mean, for me, it's quite large because fitted up between 2008 and 2018 at a monthly time step. So it means we have 130 maps. And perhaps it will answer your question. So basically, we have commercials that are all over the year. Okay? And we have scientific survey data on this month. So scientific survey data plug in the model right here, and that's for fully informed all the time steps. Okay? If we had only scientific survey data, we could have distribution on time step, but then not on all the time steps, and particularly in February, we shouldn't have said anything about reproduction with scientific survey data. Here we can say something with commercial. What we can also investigate is the variability of preferential sampling. Okay. So typically, I've integrated 3 different fleets that have 3 different targeting behavior in the model, and so what we can see is that the preferential sampling estimate varies in time and between fleets, and there even seems to be some seasonality for the auto-descent.
Is that the B parameter?
Yeah, that's the parameter. We can also focus on the reproduction period and look at aggregation areas, try to see if these aggregation areas match with the knowledge we have on reproduction. Then to mean that, well, we could use these aggregation areas as a property that aggregate reproduction areas. So typically, I mean, what I use are indices of local aggregations that allow to identify areas where between 2008 and 2018, for the month of the reproduction, well, where persistent aggregation areas are. So these are persistent aggregation areas. These in February are always aggregation areas. And if you compare this, okay, persistent aggregation areas with some reference information regarding the reproduction, that, I mean, this was based on available 40 years ago, based on 50 samples, more or less. So that's quite cool data. We can see that there is between the model output and these those these areas, except that here we've got 10 years of data. 10 years of data, like quite, I mean, it's quite recent. I mean, this is not old data, and that I didn't believe that these are only indirect observations of fouling, while these are direct observations of fouling. But I mean, they're complementary. Another thing that we could be interested in is trying to synthesize all the model output in 1 or 2 patterns. Okay, we have 130 maps. Okay, that's hard to analyze in one shot. I mean, and so the idea is to reduce the dimension of the map through some methods like empirical or linear function. And the idea is by flexible species distribution into a set of maps and a set of time theories that allow okay, fish distribution evolution. And P and alpha are estimated this way. We minimize the residual term, the residual by intensity, and we set out the analytical space between spatial pattern and theory. So these are typically the 2 first modes of the EUF that best captures the variance of the spatial field. And basically, this should be interpreted in this way. When the loading factors, when the time theories are high here, okay, it means that biomass is aggregating in red area here, and biomass is low in blue area. While when it is the opposite, when loading factors here are low, then it means that soil is aggregating in high in green areas and low in red areas. And what we can see, so blue lines here are the ones of January or each year. Okay, what we can see is a nice seasonal pattern. Okay, perfect seasonal pattern where soil is high in red areas in January, February, March. Perfectly the timing of the distribution, the area we identified as production, and biomass of soil is high in the coastal area here during the summer, which coincides with the feeding reproduction. So what we can like evidence here with the model outputs is that we can identify spatial seasonal patterns that have meaning from an ecological point of view. And what could be interesting typically would be to extend a bit the time series earlier, extend a bit here, and see if there is some lag in the timing of the reproduction, timing the seasonality, and try to perhaps relate this to some climate change or this kind of stuff. In France, we don't expect a big lag because it's temperate, etc. But possibly for Alaska, this kind of stuff would be different. So this I only presented results for the soil, but I've applied it on many other applications during PhD for different projects, macro, may have this for several data for species, in a working group of the CSTUP for Mediterranean species to identify potential closure areas. The difficulty with these species, at least in Mediterranean, is that they are not managed to quotas. So you need to identify. Yeah, I can see you. I mean, that's a bit weird, but
You ran 2 quotas. I could have just stopped at managed.
what I want to do is to identify potential closure areas that is protected with spawners and the. So this was part of my job. Yeah, basically these model outputs aim at feeding a full marine spatial planning to identify marine protected areas, to identify also areas where we could implement also wind farms, and identify also areas that should be preserved for fishing, to identify where fish engage and where fishermen could go to enter. So, I mean, a few words about potential other applications of outside fishery science. Typically, this model would be suited to apply to investigate some territorial ecology where we have data points, data, and some aggregated data to infer the distribution of some Celtic data and the air pollution data. The problems that I handled are quite generic problems in all the fields. And then a few words of discussion. What time it is?
14 minutes.
Okay, this will be short. Some words of discussion. So at the very beginning of the presentation, I highlighted some methodological challenges that need to be handled to integrate massive source of data with scientific survey data. Okay? So preferential sampling is a challenge that we handle. Well, integration of several data sources is something also that we try to handle through the integrated model and view. We still have problem with the change of support because it's running fine in simulations, but on real data we still have issues. And when you try to handle problems, usually you find even more problems. That's common rule. Typically, computation time is a problem because we have quite long time series and the models are quite complex. Okay? And for this model, and it's also the case for many other spatial-temporal models, not only science, computational time begins to be like a big problem with our method, so with TMB and with pairing. So there is some progress to do here. This was supposed to go deep into TMB, see what's tricky and what's the burden and CO2 overpass this, and that's quite hard. So also we use massive data sources, and this is the field of deep learning methods. I'm using the hierarchical modeling framework, but deep learning methods also have some useful tools to investigate this question, and that would be interesting to have a look at it deeper. And the last point, in my models, I only modeled relatively simple ecological processes, so fish distribution, but no mechanistic view of the process, no mechanistic process, and this would be a nice extension of the framework to include the population dynamics, etc. So this is a bit what I'm doing here. Fish population, spatial population dynamics model, and kind of a model that Maxime was working on. So basically, this model extends the idea of standard population dynamics into space. Okay, so you've got spatial abundance that depends on spatial recruitment, and you model all the processes related to mortality, fishing mortality, growth, etc. And again, when you have estimated this model, is to project this model under alternative scenario of management, and see which management perform best for this population. So this is basically management strategy evaluation. The tricky part is that here we've got spatial model. So it means that we can management strategy evaluation in space with training all the strong methodological challenges that I try to address in my work. And that is, thank you for your attention. We are available for any question issue.
Great talk. I think people online were having a hard time hearing you for some things, but this application is really useful for a lot of things. One question I have, what if, for preferential sampling, what if it's the case that the fleet is communicating to avoid bycatch, say, like we have a situation in Alaska where they're communicating to some degree, they run into salmon bycatch, and they move. And so it's kind of the opposite, I would say, non-preferential sampling.
Yeah.
Could you imagine applying something like that to say something about places to avoid fishing, like in time and space, but more real time?
With this model, we could be able to identify like recursive behavior. So the fact that some fishermen are avoiding some species, and if you got a negative parameter, a negative B, negative parameter for preferential sampling, then it means that there is some kind of recursive behavior. And I mean, you could interpret this one.
Just on that point, could you use simple words on the B parameter?
B parameter is a parameter that quantifies preferential. When B is equal to 0, then there is preferential sampling. When B is inferior to 0, then there is recursive behavior to our.
In that, I mean, conceptually, the information on the value of B kind of comes from survey data or less preferential?
Yeah. You could have a problem of identification when preferential sampling is very strong, or a problem of estimation, but the model structure here allows to make operation.
Can I follow up on that? I mean, I was just thinking of one of the features of VAST is that you can have these multiple layers. So in principle, you could, in fact, not with this structure, but you could model the thing you want to avoid is one spatio-temporal surface. And then you would extend the model that there'd be a B for preferential sampling, but you'd have a C, which would probably be negative, related to the thing that you're trying to avoid. So that's sort of getting almost mechanistically into the idea that, you know, you want to fish where there's fish, but you want to avoid where there are bad things. And so it's like the problem is that you obviously don't have, you know, Chinook bycatch for every spatio-temporal cell. You'd have to infer it. But if it was rocks, you could just put rocks in as a environment. If you don't fish on rocks, for example, you'd put rocks in as a habitat covariate, basically, which would define the underlying surface. This is very cool.
You asked me about rocks, but it's fine.
Well, you don't hit any rocks. Anybody online with questions?
Not that I've seen so far.
Okay, well, everyone, get this model running by Monday.
Is there, so from the first slides, I'm understanding that you can reduce bias in your index estimation when using this preferential sample model, but you also mentioned that it's hard to converge and it has a very flat likelihood surface. In terms of value to stochastic system and where you may use this as the index, what's the trade-off between the increased precision, reduced bias and the decrease in potential precision there?
That's a good question. That's always subjective, and there is no mathematical rule saying where you should account for preferential sampling. I think first you should carefully, I mean, know your data. So know whether it is something preferentially or not. And if preferential sampling occurs strongly, then you should do some sensitivity analysis regarding your biomass index and see how much it impacts your biomass index. And if it impacts strongly your biomass index, then you should think about for preferential sampling. Yeah, that's it. Step by step. Is it okay for you?
Yeah, in a way, I'm like wondering, like, is like the improvement in reducing bias from adding this catch data and the preferential sampling model compared to a model without catch data, but the increase in variance, like where, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I would like to discuss with you after this, but I was wondering, so, you know, what you do, you really go under the hood of your spatio-temporal model and, you know, like work on your likelihoods and all that. There's a lot of these. So what I've used quite often is a little bit of a wrapper, you know, which is, so Andre mentioned best, I've been using STM-TMB, right? So like something that takes approaches such as that, or some of the concepts behind that, and make them more available to people like me. And I'm wondering if you are aware of approaches like this, so like applications of something like VAST or STM-TMB that have incorporated these issues that you are talking about.
We have a package.
Right.
We have a package. And the preferential something?
Yeah.
That is based on this model.
So then I like to talk, because for some of the work that we do, it would be not, we don't do it yet, but it would be nice to use observer data to capture some of the out of survey distributions. So
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the B plot over time, the stocks? And the question I have is, so this is for one species, right?
Yeah.
And you have different fleets, and presumably the fleets are targeting different species. Have you compared what the B would be for the co-occurring species?
Yeah. First paper of my PhD investigated 3 case studies where preferential something was one was low, one was medium, and one was high. So basically, this is medium, okay? 2 to 3 would be high, and below is relatively low, okay?
And does that use that to define the métiers, or? is
That's
that-
an idea. That's an idea. That's always hard to differentiate it because you can use this kind of metric as a spatial targeting metric. You can use a composition of the captain, but in each cases, you at the end, there is always uncertainty whether the fisherman catch this species or was at this location because he wanted to target this species or because they were just co-occurring, okay? And so this is a limit of this kind of approach. We don't know if, in fact, species and fishermen were co-occurring or in fact they were really targeting the motive. So that's also a limit of the approach, but it's a metric, interesting metric.
All right, so if you had a question, you raised your hand before you started.
You can't see me. I was just wondering, in terms of the sort of broad applicability of this method, like what are the minimum data requirements if you were to set this up in a new area? What would you be, what kind of both spatial and temporal resolution would you need?
It would work on one-time steps with this data. I think it would work. Perhaps you may have to simplify a bit the model because it's quite complex, so you need quite a lot of data to run it. Here, but maybe it might be a bit tricky to converge, but it should work. That's always a balance to find. And then you extend it as much as you want. So on 1 year monthly time step, so you've got 12 months, or 10 years at bi-weekly time steps, so you've got 132 times 2, but it would be very heavy and you would need a computer to run it. So it's quite flexible, I think. The big limit, I think, is not the model, it's the availability of the data, and specifically the varied data, because it's hard to get this data. So, because of privacy concerns and stuff like that.
For the VMS data, are you doing any kind of filter on whether or not that data is active fishing versus like transiting?
Yeah, typically we do some filtering based on speed threshold thing, growth, but pragmatic.
So VMS data, these are data collected by the fishing authorities specifically for fishing. What about AIS data?
Here, points are recorded every hour. For AIS, you've got smaller lab, but part-time fishermen, turns out they're so, well, they come from pianists. So more competing for me, yeah.
Like only when they're fishing, maybe.
Only when they're close. You can almost estimate when they're in the closed area. AIS gets switched off.
Okay.
Good. I'm pleased to say Mike Wolf and Tuesday will not have as many equations. Sorry?
Leave that when I see your.
Oh, you'll see it.
How many pictures of fish?
What's a fish?